tall, handsome man walked into my office and said, "Hi, I am Bob Orttung. My office is next to yours." And I loved to meet him, and I instantly liked him. And he instantly proposed to co-author a book about the Russian Olympics. And I said yes, and we promised to be each other's lawful co-authors for study and research until the publication of the book Do Us Part. The first thing that we organized was a public discussion that we titled, "Will the dark predictions about Putin's regime come true during the Russian Olympics?" And suddenly the Russian embassy contacted our dean and demanded to remove the words dark and regime from the title of our talk. But the dean refused, and then 3 Russian diplomats arrived at our presentation and made a statement protesting the words dark and regime to be applied to the name of their dear leader. And Bob and I knew we were doing the right thing. As true political scientists, we researched every aspect of the Russian Olympic Games, except the sports, which we completely ignored. We also compared the Russian Olympics with other Olympics, especially the previous 2010 Vancouver Olympics in Canada. And we were surprised when every Canadian we interviewed complained about corruption, because the Canadian Olympic Committee planned to spend $3.1 billion and ended up spending $3.2 billion. And as a Russian, I actually felt offended when Canadians complained about corruption, because they had no idea what corruption was. Russian Olympic Committee planned to spend $12 billion and ended up spending over $55 billion, which was 52 more than Canadians spent. It took us 7 years to finish the book. And the very first publisher we submitted to instantly accepted it and wrote to us proposing a bestseller title, The Putin's Olympics. And Bob said, "This is great news. Let's celebrate." I said, "Let's go crazy." And we bought a 6-pack audio and celebrated. Our university organized a book launch for us, and it exceeded our expectations. The room was packed, people asked tons of questions, and we knew it was a success when somebody stole 2 copies of our book from the exhibition stand. And our next stop was New York. We applied to the biggest political scientist conference, which gathered over 100 panels and over 1,000 participants. And only 3 people showed at our presentation. And those 3 people were Bob's cousins who lived in New York. Well, our book didn't become New York Times bestseller, but that didn't discourage Bob and me, though it might discourage us a little bit. Actually, it totally discouraged us. But we recovered by now, and we are planning our next book, which I will tell you about 7 years later. Thank you.